We're live. Hey everyone, C3 Corporate Consciousness Co-op. We are back first Thursdays of the month and this new year. And so we're super excited to have two coaches here that are ready to have a conversation around empowered goals and what all that means. But before we get going, I just want to let you know, introduce you to, I'm Lawrence Henderson. I'm a part of one part of the co-op, and Karen Huller is the mastermind, the thought leader as it pertains to saying, hey, we need a community of people who just are going to be conscious and intentional about connection. And we started having these conversations back in the summer. And now we want to spotlight and highlight several leaders throughout each month at the beginning of our month to get us kicked off in really having great and informed conversations. And without further ado, before we introduce our guest, Karen has jumped in. And Karen, the floor is open for you to just answer the why. Why C3? Why now? What was missing? To get you inspired to say yes to this each month?
First, let me apologize for being late. 2020 continues into 2021, it looks like.
Grace. Grace.
Thank you. I appreciate the grace. I appreciate the grace. We can just look at yesterday and answer the question why, right? We can look at 4 people dying. We can look at the siege of our capital to see that there's a void of conscious leadership. And as leaders, it's our responsibility to not just be conscious, but to create and nurture other conscious leaders and flood the world with other conscious leaders. So we're here to take the ripples that we've all been creating as leaders and make them a wave of conscious change. And I appreciate everybody who's here watching. I hope you comment. I hope you engage. I hope you're in the C3 community. A link will, I'm sure, be posted at some point. I will do that as soon as I make sure that I'm fully present here. As I was rushing in here, I need to give myself a moment to just kind of calm. But Kenston, I'm looking forward to meeting you this way and learning more about you and how you've used empowered goals to achieve everything that you've achieved. And Jennifer, I'm so excited to have you here and see you again, like actually seeing you. And I'd love to find out again, Jennifer, because you're the one who suggested this topic of empowered goals. And I want to find out, what is it that you think conscious leaders need to know about empowered goals in order to achieve our goals, whether they're conscious leadership goals or otherwise, because the more we can achieve our collective leadership goals, the faster we can move towards a world that is further away from yesterday.
So
Jennifer.
Jennifer, introduce yourself, and then we'll go to Kenston, and then we'll get this kicked off.
Awesome. So my name is Jennifer Wildgust. I am the manager of Waxing the City. My brother and sister-in-law are the owner of 2 waxing franchises, both in Doylestown and North Wales. And so I've been doing that for about 1 year and 3 months. And in addition to that role, I am also the managing director of the Polka Dot Powerhouse, a fabulous group of connecting women in the Montgomeryville and Doylestown area as well. Prior to that, I was building a toolkit on a journey to figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up. But it has led me to a place of really being so excited about coaching anyone in any connection that I have with them, because I find such value in being coached as well. I'm always, looking for nuggets every day that I can take and tweak and use in my own life to be better tomorrow than I was today. So that's me.
Hey, I'm Kenston Henderson. I am the CEO and founder of Live with Lyfe. We do everything training and keynote speaking, specifically work with organizations to help them develop values and professional development goals, and been recently doing a lot of leadership coaching and development with everything that's taking place in the world today. And so it's brought forth an opportunity to help empower leaders and equip leaders to help them be even better. So it's a little bit about me. I'm also a musician. I play piano. I got a couple relaxation projects out there. So if the world needs to relax right now, some peace, yeah, go check it out.
Cool, Kenston. I'm a singer. That's cool to know.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We need to do a project 2021.
You know what? I have so many unfinished musical projects from 2020 that I need collaborators to share. Yeah.
Let's go.
C3 in full effect. So when we talk about, and thank you, Karen, for just bringing back up, right, the whole reason why conscious leadership is a thing, because we talk about goals every single year, right? Let's be honest. We probably got notebooks full of things that we wrote down from years ago. But when we talk about empowered goals, and Jennifer and Kenston, as people who coach professionals and groups through what this looks like, where do you start? Where do you start to inform your life goals, all that good stuff?
Jennifer, you want to go?
Oh no, I'd love to hear you start.
Okay, all right. So I mean, this is so fresh as last night, right? So I did a session with my wife and I. We took a group through this journey, and so before they even got to the session, we sent them an email to basically ask them, what are you envisioning for 2021? And so I start with, what do you see yourself doing, whether it's personally or professionally, spiritually, financially, setting that vision. So casting a large vision, and then we approach the steps of, starting the goal process. And so that's what I usually start at.
So very much the same thing, is really taking time to listen. I have a team of 8 serologists, wax specialists that I'm coaching right now. And what I'm finding is that they all are motivated by different things. And so really listening and understanding what it is they want to achieve, but then also listening for what tools they individually need to succeed. Because even if half of them have the same goal, they're not going to get to the end doing the same processes necessarily. So I'm really taking time to listen and ask a ton of questions. It's so easy to give people the tools or offer people the tools and hope that they will take and use them. But it's really helping them to figure out what's going to work best for them. And even if you give them, help them to evaluate today and they're like, I think this is the right idea. 2 weeks from now, they may want to further have somebody help to facilitate tweaking whatever they thought of 2 weeks ago and moving in a different direction, or, just enhancing or changing it.
Yeah. So this first week is crucial, right? To anything and getting going, the momentum and all those things. There can be little W's that you collect in this first week. What are some things that you help your clients with as a momentum starter outside of just doing the basics? What are some things that they have to overcome to get them to see things as it being empowered?
Yeah. So, yesterday, the question I started off with is, I know some people, they'll disagree with me. And I started with the why question. Like, why do you even want to establish this goal? Why do you even want to reach this goal? And what that is doing is, I gave them an example of we're taking a private jet to Hawaii, and the tank is empty, right? And so what we got to do is fill this tank up, because we know that, we're going someplace, but we need to fill this tank first. And so asking the question of, why is this so important to you that you accomplish this goal? I had a client who said, they wanted to graduate from college. And I said, what was the reason why? And she gave, well, because everybody around her was graduating from college and she was a little older. And I said, is that it? She's like, well, yeah. And I was like, it's not enough, right? We need to build your fuel. And so I started asking her, who would be affected, by you reaching this goal? I say, do you have any siblings? She said, yeah, younger. Yeah. I said, okay. So by you reaching that goal, how will they be affected? How are your family members? How are your friends be affected? Again, this is putting more fuel in the tank because we understand that there may be some turbulence up in the air that can cause her to falter. And it's got to be more than just, you know, I'm doing it because other people have done it.
True. When I was when I first started teaching at the university level at Drexel University, and we were teaching our students SMART goals, I was really happy to learn that what the Career Services Office wanted us to do was to question why is it, unfortunately they're seniors by that point. They're senior business majors. You know, that might be something we want to guide them through, you know, from even before they get to college when they have to make those huge decisions, you know, but why is this your goal? Are you still, you know, trying to please your parents, or is this, you know, really something that you feel you could contribute to the world? Is this, because, you know, we can, the key, you know, one of the keys to motivation is knowing that there's going to be a good outcome. The belief that there's going to be a positive outcome is critical to getting yourself up to do the things that are necessary to achieve your goals. So, you know, to not have an empowered goal is like, you know, what are you going to fool yourself with every day to get yourself to do those things you don't want to do, right?
Yeah, I love the talk about what are you gonna fool yourself with, right? And that's, I think, the difference between actual tangible goals. And I love you know, Isabel's comment about the active listening with, you know, your entire being, and it's something having a lot to do with conversations that we consistently have with not only with ourselves but with others that we're sharing our goals with. I believe that's why resolutions drop off. It's because they weren't shared, right? It's almost again, the old HR thing. If it's not written, it's not real. But I believe that also is the same case as goals. If no one else knows that it was one of your goals, then how can people hold you accountable or be in support of you? And so those are things that I believe have empowered me the most, is when another professional like-minded in my community, when me and Karen had this conversation about what C3 was supposed to be, the energizing part was both of us was like, okay, so when's the first one? Like that literally was like, okay, we're getting this out of our head and we're taking action on this thing. And I believe from a goal perspective, that is what informs kind of those wins. It informs our next steps, and we build momentum and confidence. Where have y'all seen just kind of that real grab at repeat success in your clients? Like, what's been there or what's been present to help them achieve kind of consistent success? Jennifer, start with you.
Yeah.
So I, being in my role, I'm really, like, it's so interesting because Karen, when you posted that question and I responded, it was because I was so charged up about some new tools that I had to really take my leadership at Waxing the City to the next level. I felt like I was helping to create SMART goals with the team, but what I realized was I wasn't. You know, I have a background in understanding stages of change and, you know, how to create a SMART goal. And what I realized was I was accepting, you know, I want to earn an extra, you know, whatever a month, or I want to be number one. And I was like, great, let's work towards that. But I really wasn't helping them to break down. So how are you going to get there? What are the daily processes so that you can measure your success and whether or not you're being consistent with your daily tasks? And so I've really been charged up the last couple of weeks. Instead of, you know, kind of looking at that bigger picture, are they achieving the end goal, or are they really achieving the daily process goal? And what does that look like for them? But more experience, you know, with being empowered. I would not be doing what I was doing if I hadn't trained and ran a full marathon. That is really where I learned all about. I didn't think I could ever do anything like that. I didn't think I could be disciplined enough to achieve a goal that big. But when it comes down to what we're just talking about is accountability and community, making sure that you're in a supportive, encouraging group, because the bottom line is you're going to have days that you get up and you don't want to. It's a fact. I don't want to stick to the process that's going to get me the goals. I just don't feel like it today. So when you have that community around you that cheers you on when you don't want to, you're going to be then the one who's going to cheer them on when they don't want to, and it balances.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I was shouting a few amens out there, Jennifer, for you, because it's so key. Like I just think about my own experience of writing a book, right? And so, one, I didn't write it down, so that stifled the process. But when I finally wrote it down, the process started moving. But what helped me out and what helps the groups that I work with stay focused and stay towards conquering their goals is that accountability piece. It's so crucial to have at least one person, but it's even better to have a support team. And so I'll ask the question of, okay, who can you choose to hold you accountable during this process of you meeting the goals? Now you choose them. You choose the task that you want them to have towards keeping you accountable. But it's so necessary because we understand as coaches that people reach their goals much faster with our help, right? We're not trying to pat ourselves on the back, but it helps. And we have the understanding that a supportive community will help you reach your goals. And it could be way faster than you doing it by yourself.
I definitely think that there's maybe a smaller cross section of the population that might not thrive with accountability, the rebels. So I want to talk about, the empowered goals with the rebels are really important because it has to be their reason. It has to be their reason. They are not going to go along with, your reasons for them succeeding. Not at all. Have you had rebels on your team, and how did you guide them through the empowered goals process to help them achieve their goals? I see everybody's like, yes, we've had the rebels on our team.
Again, nobody likes to be told the task that it's going to take for them to reach their goals. But it's when we turn into the coaching style of asking them questions. So, how can you get to this point? Yeah. What do you think it's going to take for you to reach this goal? Who else needs to be involved? If you don't have the necessary tools and skills to achieve this goal, how are you going to make it happen?
Yeah. And what about the accountability part with the rebels? How do you help them be accountable? What does that look like?
It really depends. So if we're talking about from a manager perspective, then it's a part of my process as a manager is to help you stay accountable. But we got to put some things in place, so some measurables in place to make sure that you're still tracking or you're on track to finish or meet those goals.
Yeah, I think it also is a balance between not only them looking at the leader, but what can we allow the rebel to own and be accountable to? Because at the end of the day, if I got to do your job, then I don't need you, or I'm docking your pay and paying me what the work you didn't do. And so that, to me, when you have an expectation and you manage what that looks like, even for the rebel, because it goes back to, kind of the tech bell curve of, Roger's adoption of innovation in anything. They're generally the person that they don't get it. Right. That's why they're the rebel. They're bucking it like, what, we're good where we're at. We've achieved some success and I'm comfortable. And you're trying to tell me to change something, even if it's for the better. I'm good where I'm at. And it's really what the rebel is saying without saying it. I'm good where I'm at. And so you stop taking options. Stop putting options on the table for them. Like, hey, to get along here, we're innovative, we're creative. Guess what? You come at your own pace, but here are going to be some expectations that you have. And again, that allows that ownership, that allows that accountability. But then there's the follow through and closing the loop on, hey, we talk about these things. You were supposed to own it. This is what you get. And so it's that push, pull, that give, that take. And it's the control influence model, right? Helping them understand this is not a win-win, win-lose, or lose-lose. Like, this is a lose-lose for you. Like, so please help them understand and put some things in perspective. It's kind of some directions I go. But Jennifer, I know you got a team full of folks that you're helping along the way.
Well, yeah, and they all are different. So it's interesting going back to, I think when you really take the time to listen to what the goals are that they have, you can quickly get pushback on well, I just share because I don't think there's a connection sometimes in this is the goal I want. And then you start to coach. And then there's this defensiveness of, hold on, though, I don't want you to tell me how to do it. But then you're going back to that source of, I'm here to support you in achieving your goal. So like you just said, like it can be your way. We can figure out the tools that are going to work for you. But all I'm doing is helping you do what you said you wanted to do. And so we just got to figure out how to do it. So if you don't want to do what got you, well, hold on, what got you to today isn't going to get you to tomorrow. So if you really want to get down the road, you're going to have to do new things, add new tools, practice new skills. And if you don't, well, then we need to change your goal, because I can't support you if you're not going to do the work.
I have reframed goals for this year. So to be perfectly honest, I didn't set goals this year. I was feeling really heavy about the word goals this year. I made a lot of goals for 2020, as I have every single year that I've been a professional. And I am not saying I didn't reach some of them, but the ones that I didn't reach because we had a pandemic, because we had civil unrest, because we had things, I was exhausted. We were all grieving, and I'm giving myself grace, but I'm also making myself wrong for all the things. When I was setting down my goals, I was like, oh, can I set that goal? I don't know. I kind of was just like, this is feeling heavy to me. I hate not achieving goals. So I made a list of possibilities, and that was like my neuroscience hack to pull myself into these possibilities, because once, the goals didn't feel achievable, I was like, just because I didn't achieve the ones last year, so I was like, I was questioning my ability to achieve goals. And I said, I need to just reframe this. I need something that will feel light and pull me. So when I made a list of possibilities, because I'm already clear on my purpose, and that's really the key major focus right there, is that I have my purpose clear. So now it's just, what are the possibilities I can create in 2021? Thank you, Philip. All right, I'm not alone. Yeah. What are the possibilities that I can set for 2021? And that actually did something really powerful for me, because it did what goals would normally do. It put my brain into a problem-solving mode where I started to devise all of these plans to make those possibilities happen. So a little bit different. I mean, it's essentially kind of like the same thing, but I might be letting myself off the hook, like full disclosure. That might be what I'm doing. Okay. So you're my community. If you think that's what I'm doing, I'm totally open to your coaching on that. But I feel excited. That's how I feel right now. I'll share my goals with you, so and you can hold me accountable.
Oh, definitely. No, and I believe in this season for all of us, it's not going to look just how Jennifer said, her team, it looks different for everybody, but can you check in and ask yourself, did we get there? And whatever you define get there as. And I believe that's the part in are you better for getting there? And there was one thing we changed the way, and I really dug into still using SMART goals, but giving myself the ability to flex in my goals. And so adding in a minimum, middle, and max of what success looked like in a goal, right? Just based on last year. And you talk about the reframe. I'm just like you, Karen, where I was holding myself hostage to what I wrote January 2020. And it was another coach who was like, why didn't you adjust? Like, you should have adjusted. And again, it goes back to like, they were my goals. I didn't even give myself permission to adjust. And so here I was in my head, like I was dreading looking at my book. I was dreading looking at where I wrote my goals, because I was like, I didn't meet them. There's no way I can meet them. But it's like, you should have made adjustments. What did you achieve as it pertains to the categories? And when I went back, I was like, I'm actually not that far off from what I originally, but it was the mental reframe. And I love the possibilities part, right? It goes into the positive intelligence and the neuroscience of the things of like, hey, how can I reframe this to reach towards our goals? What are Kenston, Jennifer, what are y'all seeing as not new tricks, but new tricks to help people reframe the world we're in right now.
I think you started this session off with that G word, grace. And that's what I've been helping leaders in organizations with that G word, grace, and giving grace to themselves, but giving grace to their employees as well, as it relates to the goals set from the organization level all the way down through the organization. And so helping to reframe, like you both, Karen and Lars, have said, is so crucial, because like you said, it just didn't. 2020 looked way different than we ever expected. And like you said, didn't meet some goals, but, I flexed and, I leaned a different way and end up setting other new goals within the year unexpectedly. But again, just choosing and really celebrating those small wins is crucial. Even on yesterday, right? All the unrest in the Capitol, setting new goals for today, tasks were, okay, don't look at the TV for, only look at the TV for a half hour. And that's it. Okay. Listen to some calming music or some motivational podcasts to add to my task list, my goal list. So that way you stay focused on what you need to stay focused on. So
I love that. Yeah, definitely. You can burn out just driving. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I recently got recertified. I one of the tools in my toolkit is that I got a certification from NASM for personal training. And so I'm using some of those skills in a very different capacity right now, but I recertified because you never know what tomorrow will bring. So when I just did, the course that I took was about stages of change. And people's readiness for change, and that is different for different things. So just because you set a goal, it doesn't mean that you're within 6 months of really getting ready, or are you a month away, or are you actively engaging in the processes to reach that goal. But one of the things they talked about was the use of imagery, and really being able to picture the achievement. They talked a lot about Olympic athletes and star athletes and how they used imagery to see themselves achieving the goal. But something that was very powerful to me as I really stepped back in my own health and wellness this past year, and kind of gearing up for 2021, what's that going to look like you, Lawrence, too. I had some goals, and when they didn't look the way that they were supposed to look, they disappeared. When I thought I was going to be training for a marathon, and then there was no thought of a marathon, my running shoes got dusty. And so one of the things that the illustrations that they gave was of someone who was training for a marathon, was the person was envisioning a really rainy, cold day that they were running the marathon. They were envisioning the worst case scenario and being prepared for that. So like in my mind, when I'm running that race, it's beautiful. It's the perfect temperature. I feel great. I'm not imagining what it's going to feel like when my legs start to break down and, my arms are tired, and mentally I'm starting to lose focus, and what am I going to do in those moments? And preparing yourself for those obstacles was it was awesome to see that. So going into this year, I'm prepared. If a race that I'm looking at this year isn't going to happen, I've already prepared that whether it's rainy, sunny, cloudy, 0 degrees, we're going to do it, and we're just going to plan a different route here, and we're going to do it anyway. And I think having that possibility of what it would look like if it doesn't go in that finite, original vision, it's still going to happen. So it doesn't stop the process when it doesn't look the way it's supposed to look.
Oh. I love that we're having this conversation about taking a look at goals we didn't achieve. And, I know that it's a new year, I know that it's a new year, but I feel like we'd be really missing something if we didn't let people take a look at how they're feeling about last year's goals before they go ahead and set this year's goals.
Yeah.
And let me ask you both, when it comes to your teams and evaluating goals for last year, what does that conversation look like? Did you adjust your team's goals based on the conditions that nobody could control, or are you looking back and are you saying like, we had this goal, but if we really would have adjusted it, then we probably would have achieved what we knew was realistic to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, I had to actually put aside a couple goals, for the team, because we weren't in person anymore. So a lot of the training and speaking I was doing had been pushed to online. So now the new goals were pushed to, okay, we need to segue, make sure our Zoom accounts are up to date, make sure our other virtual accounts are up to date, platforms are up to date, and we got the right cameras, we got the right equipment, how do we get our message sent out even further now that we have now we're all virtual and not just picking up the phone and calling, emails. I mean, it just looked different. The tasks looked different towards those same goals. So that was kind of the switch. And so now as the vaccinations are coming in and things may be on the way back to somewhat semi-normal, we'll start bringing those goals to the forefront. But later.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I didn't know you weren't done, Kenston.
No, you're fine.
Jennifer, what did it look like for you to sit down with your team and take a look at the 2020 goals and in the midst of everything that was going on?
Yeah, we certainly had to have a lot of resilience this year, and we had to pivot for sure. So our one studio had been open 7 months. Last January, we had a car come directly across the street and smash right into our studio. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us in the building at the time, in a very small space. We all managed to get out safely. Definitely some bumps and bruises, but it's amazing how the circumstances, made everybody able to be safe and come out alive. So that happened in January. Then we, had to close down to rebuild the Doylestown studio, went into full-blown opening mode with our second studio because we wanted to open March 2nd prior to the busy season of, people getting ready for traveling and the summer and, pools that weren't open. And so, we pushed it 6 weeks from getting the key to being able to open the doors with a team and marketing and recruiting, and we shut down 2 weeks after that. So we came to a scratching halt after lots of high energy of reopening the studio, and then we were closed for 3.5 months. And so a lot of pivoting, but Kenston, just like you said, 100% true. We have, number one, given ourselves grace. We've celebrated our ability to be resilient. But also we have embraced what this time has given us, just like you said, to consider other things that maybe we wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. So we may say we didn't achieve X, Y, and Z goal, but oh my goodness, this time that we had allowed us to really go deeper with A, B, and C. So when the next spring season comes around, we're going to be stronger than ever. And we would not have had that time had it not been for this year that we've had. So we're choosing to see the great things that did come and be ready for success, in the future.
Wow, that is, I know you told me about the car coming through when we talked a couple months ago, and I know I was visualizing in my head, but now I'm visualizing like all of the, I know that we were all dealing with one thing and you had this 2020 thing just come literally right at you. And I'm just thinking about like all of the emotions, the grief process, the shock, the things you have to go through. And then your emotional state of mind when you get into an empowered goal session, like what if, and I feel like you've faced this at some point, but what if you sit down with your team members to help them set some empowered goals and really get to the why, and their brain literally can't process the future because they're still dealing with the present. Let's talk, because I know that many leaders have faced that in 2020, and we don't know what 2021 has in store. So let's prepare our leaders, to face that even better in the future. What does that look like to help them? Their brain is in a state of grief, shock, anger, denial, any of that. When you're in denial, you can't even face reality, let alone think about what the future could look like. So let's talk about, as leaders, what you can do to help your team process emotionally what needs to be processed so they can then get into a state of mind where they can think about the possibilities of the future and what really would mean success for them?
Yeah, I think at times we have, as leaders, we have to set one of those goals, and one of those goals that we can set as leaders is a self-care goal. Really making sure that they are taking care of themselves. What does that look like? Again, just saying, just checking in with them during the staff meetings, on the phone, checking in, however often you set the tone for it, but checking in to really check in to see how they're doing. And if they're not doing well, being ready and equipped with those resources that they can get to them quickly. To say, hey, it would probably help you or help out if you took a look at our EAP plan number, to go through some light counseling, some coaching, something to help them through that. And so just making sure all your messaging is positive and uplifting, to the point where once you get into that space of setting those goals, that you can kind of fill them out to see where they are. And there might be times you may have to reset some goals at a different time, because if they're not in the space, how productive is it going to be? So,
Yeah, Karen, you're taking me back to 2 months ago. I live to be a cheerleader. I love to come in high energy. What are we going to do today? Whether we're going to accomplish our goals or not, I'm like ready to bring the A game and energy. And
You're bringing me back to 10, 20 years ago.
Totally. I just jump out of bed to go to work. I have my bad days, but being around people charges me up. So a bad day just gets overrode by the fact that I'm with people. So I'll never forget. There was a day I came in and I was like, "Woo, let's go!" And yeah, there wasn't much energy I was able to bring. You know what? It was the week of the election. And whether it didn't even matter. I didn't even have to know where people stood, who they were. That wasn't the point. The point was there was paralysis of like, we're waiting for something that's going to tell us how we should feel next. We can't feel because we don't know whether or not we're supposed to be joyful or upset or whatever emotion. There was this just paralysis. And so I agree, Kenston. There was definitely, okay, I wanted to like pull out a tent that day and, put out some fun thing and draw people in from the parking lot. And I just had to accept it. It just needed to be a day of self-care. We just needed to sit and let people talk and share, in a professional way, but just kind of take some of that off of their shoulders. I once heard, to set a timer for 5 minutes and have a pity party, but then we got to move on. So now it wasn't a 5-minute, pity party, but just to allow that space and that grief to be real, or that frustration or that paralysis to be acknowledged. And then, okay, are we going to let this define us or refine us? What are we going to do with that?
Yeah, I think you both bring up some really good points. And what's coming up for me, and particularly Karen, as you talk about possibilities, and Isabel shared in the chat an article about just reframing and disarming the word goal, because in this new season of life for all of us, there could be some anxiety connected to goal. Even if you reframe some things, you peel it apart, you break it down, but what are the habits that we're going to create? What are the behaviors that we're going to look for? What are the possibilities? What are the opportunities? Because that, to another comment, is when you just give people the opportunity to just collect small wins here, right? There's behavior change. And Jennifer, that was a huge week. I was asking clients, like, what you going to do the week of the election? Like, what you going to do the day after, right? We all learned from 2016. They weren't prepared for the day after. Right? What are people going to do, particularly now that they have all of these things to think about? And I believe Karen pulling those things forward is a part of empowerment, right? Is the grace, all of it being in the same bucket together, giving each other hugs. That's what empowered goals and empowered behaviors and possibilities look like moving forward, is that what did the past inform you to do today, right? And how are you using it as fuel? And those be the things that you build foundations on of what looks right for your organization today, because we've never lived a today, nor tomorrow, in this reality that we're living in. So this is an opportunity. It's a possibility. And let's go into it with a level of energy where we're going to accomplish something, regardless of its stats or what it looks like.
Agreed. So you mentioned habits. You know, that habits are definitely the key to achieving any goal, especially empowered goals. So taking that further, what are your tools that you use to help your teams create good habits? Obviously, there's an accountability and there's regular check-ins. Habits are really hard to form. The conventional way anyway. I mean, I'm a certified hypnotist, and that is an accelerated way of forming a habit. But when you do it the conventional way, it's a challenge. Your brain is not set up to, instantly change modes. It's got its own default mode, and you have to consciously override that every day. It's a push. It's a push. It's a push. It's a push until it's a pull. In 2018, 2017, 2018, the year I was certified as a hypnotist, I did habit stacking, it's called, right? So I started a whole bunch of habits all at once. I started making my bed, which was really powerful. I didn't even realize how powerful just making my bed every day was going to be. I started making my bed. I started to do intermittent fasting. I ordered vegetables every week to make sure I always had something fresh to eat. I started to go dry from alcohol 3 days a week. And I'm still doing those today. I'm still doing, like, intermittent fasting turned to alternate day fasting, but I'm, these many years later, I have sustained those habits. How do you, after you set the empowered goals, then guide them through the habit forming?
Yeah, so I'm a big proponent of self-leadership, and a lot of things that I do is around self-leadership. So having developed sense of who you are, what you can do, where you're going, with the ability to influence your communication, your emotions, your behavior on the way to getting there. And so it's so key that the positive self-talk. What are you saying to yourself? What are you speaking to yourself on a day-to-day basis? Are you aware of your emotions? If we understand that we can go through a whole roller coaster of emotions in one day. It can be in a whole 1 hour. However, again, having that awareness will help you along the way. And so it's really building the team's mindset. And resiliency was 2020, right? The year of the bounce back every day. It wasn't just one day. It was every day. We had to bounce back from whatever it is. And so again, equipping them with those tools, those tips to practice on a day-to-day basis, because we know we have the understanding of to break a bad habit, we have to replace it with a good one. And so being able to replace every negative thought with a good thought, and a negative behavior with a good behavior, and just keep going after it.
I have learned so much in this short amount of time. Oh my gosh. That is awesome. That was great. And then I'm just thinking about, I think there's so many things that we look at it this year, like, oh, that was bad. 2020, what was 2020? But I am excited about what Karen said and what you just said, Kenston, about changing your mindset, and Lawrence as well about grace and all of that, and saying, let's embrace possibility, because we're looking at all that hasn't happened, but what's possible. And maybe possible for you is just making your bed, and that's okay.
How about positive reinforcement? And Jennifer, this is exactly what the answer to Call to Conscious Leadership is all about. I mean, I make a list after every one of these events of all of the things, all of the questions that we answered, all the questions that came up, all the questions that were answered, and whatever was unanswered or came up, becomes a potential topic for the next one. And I'm so glad that you have learned so much so far, because this is what these events are all about. Like, we're all leveling up at the same time together, just by learning from each other. So I'm I'm really happy that you're doing that. But can we talk about like the positive reinforcement that you institute for your teams to help them connect those behaviors that help support their empowered goals, with the good things, that the associations that you can help them create?
Yeah. Just one simple thing that I do is, if I fail, I still win. If I fail, I will learn from the situation. Looking back, reflecting on what happened. Okay, how can I learn from it, and how can I still move forward? In spite of, I'm still going to move forward. That positive self-talk of, pattern interruptions. When you're starting to go negative, snap out. Hey, don't go there. Talk to yourself. It's okay to talk to yourself, but to really encourage yourself is key.
Yeah. And that self-awareness has come up every single one of our events.
Yeah.
That it all starts there with the awareness, right? You can't interrupt a pattern you don't know exists.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to assume failure is going to happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, don't see it as a roadblock. That means you're getting somewhere. If you're failing along the way, it means you're working towards something. That's a great thing. You're learning things along the way. Like you said, you're learning what not to do, maybe. You're learning what to do because of what didn't work. You can't learn that, just by getting it right every time.
Yep.
Yeah, and I believe there's even an exercise, right? And we talk about reframing a lot, but the process of kind of the after action review, right? No matter what happened, good, bad, and different, you do the after action review so that you're collecting data, right? And then it's usable data. So what happened, what was supposed to happen, and then what are our improves, with some recommendations, right? Not just the finger pointing of, hey, you didn't get this done right, or this, that, and the other, or what didn't you achieve? Why did that go wrong? Like, hey, what could have went better? And what are your recommendations for next time? And so I believe just collecting that data and hearing people inform situations also creates a level of empowerment and ownership and say, okay, got it. That's what happened. Here's what else could have happened if we would have just did something a week earlier or whatever. And again, just always assessing impact over just inspiration of doing a thing. And that way you really can flush through is, again, we're talking about empowered goals, empowered possibilities, achievement. It's really, were we working on the right work to begin with, right? Are you assessing something that never really even mattered anyway? And so you were down on yourself. So something that didn't even impact the organization, right? And so like, then you feel really bad. Like, why'd I waste my time? So those are the things I believe in 2021. Just really being honest on, are we working on the right things? And how are we grading ourselves? Are we giving graces? We're bringing that along to the party. And really something that got brought up in the chat about empathy. And then again, not sympathy, but empathy, in that we're acknowledging ourselves, we're seeing each other, but then we're holding each other and holding space for us to be authentic as we make this transition. And so when we think about just kind of, if you had Jennifer, then Kenston, and then Karen to close us out, if there was one thing you wanted somebody to take away, not only from today, but going into this new year tomorrow, what's one thing that you would tell them to get them going as it pertains to feeling empowered about how to move forward?
Yeah, I would say if you're doing life alone, you're doing it all wrong.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing goals alone, you're doing it all wrong. If you're trying to achieve them by yourself, you're doing it all wrong. The journey is always better when you have somebody ride alongside with you. And so, again, who's in your community that you trust, that can help you, that can walk with you, cheer you on, pull you up, and keep moving towards those goals?
Oh my gosh, that's so great. Yep, so true. And I would say to recognize that it's going to come with challenges. When you set a goal or you aspire to something or you want to see the possibilities in something, you're making the choice to overcome obstacles, and you won't regret the process. Sometimes we think that the pride and the excitement is going to come when we get to that finish line. But when we choose to embrace the journey, to get to that finish line, that's when amazing things can happen. So embrace the ups, downs, the bumps in the road, you know, the smooth sailing, and everything along the way, and learn as you go.
I would say to keep your eye on the prize. You know, once you set an empowered goal, make sure you're reminding yourself of that goal every day. And like Jennifer was talking about mental rehearsal, you know, make it a daily practice, make it a daily habit to imagine yourself having achieved that empowered goal. It is very powerful. Neuroscience, you know, has proven that once you can visualize that outcome, that positive outcome actually happening, your brain will shift into problem solving mode. It will, and your brain is so powerful in that way that you can leverage what your brain naturally does. This, you know, it can work against you too, what your brain naturally does, but you can leverage what your brain naturally does to help you achieve those empowered goals. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So another great kickoff of the month. I want to thank Jennifer. I want to thank Kenston. Karen, thank you for always pulling things together with getting our panel straight. And so join the C3 community. Please, please, please join the C3 community. Connect. Don't just come in being a looky-loo. Come in, connect, throw your topics out there. Isabel just threw in at the comment. Let's continue to fail forward together, and put yourself in the ring to be a panelist, and let's have some verbal banter the first of every month. So thank y'all so much again, and until next time, connect with our speakers across their social media, and stalk them on social media, and add to their communities, and we'll connect and be accountable to each other. So thank y'all so much, and until next time. Be well, take care of your communities, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Happy 2021.